Hi everyone, I'm just preparing NetBeans for the well, to make sure that all my other projects are closed. Okay, I'm opening up the coding project for the plugin. I hope you had a good week. Okay, we're going to start in a minute. Okay. So NetBeans is super slow when it runs with OBS. OBS is the software that is most commonly used to stream and to organize the the screen that you see. But OBS is really having a priority access to the resources of the computer, and it doesn't leave a lot to NetBeans, at least with the parameters I have chosen. So let me check if the... Oh, that's not the one. Oh yeah, I remember now. I opened the wrong plugin. So where is ours? It's elsewhere. Yeah, it's there. Okay, we have just 1 hour, so we're gonna... Yes, Mathieu, indeed. Either they upgrade my hardware, or I get a quick tutorial on the on setting up the parameters for OBS. But I think my parameters are pretty standard. Okay, almost there. Yeah. Okay, so welcome. We are starting now. Just 1 minute on what is this stream about. It's about live coding, the creation of a plugin for Gephi. Gephi is this very famous software for the visualization and exploration of networks in a visual way. And it can be extended by plugins. So if there is something that you need and which is not included in Gephi, you can have a plugin for it. You just need to develop it or have it developed for you. The one we are developing now is a plugin that is going to show in a small window in Gephi a kind of word cloud of the nodes of your network. And not just all the nodes, but only the nodes that you are currently selecting with the mouse. And why would we do that? The reason is that if you have a big network made of a population of actors that you don't know, if you could actually, with the mouse, if you could hover a region, a sub-region of the network, and if it would immediately refresh this little window and show you the top words associated just to the nodes that you are currently selecting, in my view and my hope is that it's going to be super enlightening. It's going to be super insightful. You're going to see quickly what is this community about. So we have started that in November because I tried to just stream 1 hour per week. At the beginning, I was super over time because we struggled a lot with the setup of the project. But now things are getting better, and so I'm really just streaming for an hour. And as you see, I already spent almost 10 minutes on the introduction. But when we start, well, we have 50 minutes left to continue. We have made excellent progress, except that you don't see the screen. Let me fix that. That should be this one. No. Why don't you? Clément. Yeah, that's this one. Why was it? So this is where we are. We have done a lot of stuff, and what we plan for today is the part where when the selection of the graph is changing, the user is moving the mouse, and the region that they are currently selecting is changing. So some nodes get unselected and some new nodes get selected. What we want is that it triggers, this change in nodes being selected, that it triggers a calculation of what are the top nodes, the top words associated with the nodes being currently selected. So let me do that with you. These are the files where we have written a lot of code, and I've just created last week a very simple text file because I needed some clarity, of what we were trying to do for the next steps, and I wanted to write it down so that I could just not forget. So that's what you see here. When the user selects the attribute they want to analyze, so at the beginning, the tokenizer should run on the textual values of the attribute for each node. I think we have done that. The tokens, so the words, should be stored in a particular way, and precisely the list of words or tokens for each node should be stored separately in a map. If you don't know what a map is, I think it's the equivalent of a dictionary in Python. And in R as well, I suppose, I'm not sure. So let's see what we were doing. Wow, super slow. Yeah, you see it here. So this is all these lines of, basically what you see inside this function or this method is everything that will be triggered and executed when the plugin is initialized, so just one time at the beginning. So initialization of the graph, instantiating the change listener. So this thing is just going to listen to the graph and trigger stuff when the selection is changing. Loading the names of the node's attributes, fine. Okay. And I think that, yeah, in this method here, everything in this method, so these lines, will be executed when the user clicks on the run button, because we have a run button. Just look at that. You see, we have added a run button on the little window that will be added to Gephi. So what happens when the user clicks on run? Is going to extract the terms from the attribute that the user had selected. But it's not exactly what we want, right? Look at that. What does it do? Top term extractor, mine and sort textual attributes. So let's look at this method. What is inside top terms extractor? We have something that says import from file. Why not? We have mine and sort textual attributes. Yeah. Mine and sort textual attributes for all the graph. So it doesn't sort them, right? It's just a tokenization. So this method, basically I have changed this method last week, and I didn't change the name of the method, so that's why I'm confused now. So let's refactor, which is a fancy name to say change, but in a consistent way. Let's refactor the name of this method because we have changed it last week, and it does something slightly different from what it says here. So it's not just mine and sort textual attribute, it's actually tokenize, split a text in two words. So tokenize selected, and I'm sorry for the length of the names that I choose. I know that it can be a joke with Java, like they have amazingly long names for methods and variables. I tend to overdo it, but the reason is that I like that when I see a method, I understand exactly what it does. And in data science, sometimes, the operations of a method can be pretty specific. So I just make a long and specific name. So this method, what does it do? Tokenize selected textual attribute. And sorry, it's going to be super long for the entire graph. I think that's the longest name I've ever written, but who cares? So for some reason, the refactoring doesn't work, which is bad. So I'm going to just do it by hand, which means just, placing this name there. And as this method was called, you know, in the window, of course, you see that now there is an error. It doesn't recognize the name of the method. I'm just going to change it here. So let's go back to where we were. Basically, when the user clicks on the Run button, it should tokenize the selected textual attributes for the entire graph. Okay, fine. But as you see, everything is wrong with this method. I need the language. Oh, you don't see it, sorry. I need the language in order to tokenize it in the proper way, but I don't need the number of top terms to display, and I don't need it to return a string. It should basically record the tokens in a map, as I was saying before. It should just store the results, but it should not yet show the top terms. So let me butcher that. It should return nothing. It doesn't need the number of top terms to be displayed. So of course it gives me an error like, wow, I need these parameters. Well, just wait. Back to this method, tokenize selected textual attribute for the entire graph. It doesn't need a maximum number of terms. It's gonna, it's just a tokenization operation. So this is the tokenization we had written in the previous weeks. So I shouldn't change anything there. Exactly. I shouldn't change anything. What I want is that it stores them in a map, and you see the map here. Again, very long name, but it helps us understand what the map is storing. It's a map of node IDs. So for each node, what do you have? You have their text fragments. So it makes for this very long name, map of node IDs to their text fragments. I'm sorry, but I just love this kind of names because I know exactly what's inside. So what this function should return is, what it should conclude with is storing this map in a place where we can retrieve it later. And if you remember from last time, we had created a data manager, which I'm not exactly sure is a good practice. I'm even sure it's not a good practice to have, a kind of static thing that is called a data manager. But let's say it's an alpha version. This is where we're going to store our map. And why do we store it here? Is because then we can retrieve it later when we're going to need to get the top words from the selected nodes. We are there in a very, very short time. So back to the top term extractor. Yeah, you see it here. What I want is that in the end, we don't have that, we don't have this string stuff, and we don't want it to return anything actually. We just want to have the data manager, and it has it has two methods, but there is just one we need here. That's this one. Look at the long name, set. So basically attribute a value, set map of node IDs to the text fragments. So that's exactly what we want, set. And it sets the map of node IDs to their text fragments in this data manager, and then it complains, well, you don't see it, but it complains here that there is no return statement, because I just changed it, we don't want a return statement anymore, we just want to have this method to execute without returning anything. So we're gonna say put void here. You see it, void, which means returns nothing. So I save the method. Oh, we still have, no, you see the red bulb just disappeared here. So now when we are back in our, the method that is triggered when the user clicks on a button, which says run, we should have, well, we should have that, which is, why is it complaining? I suppose it's just a simple issue, but, oh yes, very simple. I just removed a closing double quote, and I should remove that. We just want, when the user clicks on run, to have the top term extractor to tokenize the text. In a second step, what we want to have is we want to display the top terms from the nodes being currently selected. That's what this plugin is going to do. And how do we do that? So it's all prepared in the function in this class here. In this class we had the method I just renamed, this like gigantic name of a function, tokenize selected textual attribute for the entire graph. Okay, but look below it. That's what we did last week. Last week was super nice because we were just laying the ground for today in a very patient way. The second method we have is this one, top terms extractor from selected nodes. And what it returns a string. So the string is really just the list of these top words that we can show on the window, so we're good. And what does it take as an input? The IDs of the currently selected nodes, the list, I don't know if you see the list of the currently selected nodes, and how many terms do we want to return? Do we want the 5 top terms or the 10 top terms? And it does it for us. I mean, that's, this, what we have here, we coded it like 3 weeks ago or maybe more, like before Christmas, I suppose. So we can, let me copy that name, because we're gonna, well, I don't need to copy it because there is an autocomplete, because we're gonna execute it here now. So it's not tokenized. Oh, I didn't make the method public. You see it's private, so let's make it, well, maybe not, well, I could not make it public, but let's do it anyway. So now when I click here, it finds it. Top terms extractor from selected nodes. And what does it take as a, as an entry? Yes, it takes the list of node IDs. I don't have them yet, so I'm gonna have to find them somewhere. And that's actually the topic for today. And how many terms? Well, we know how many terms we want to display because we asked the user about it. Let me show you. So back to the visual kind of rendering of our plugin, you see that we have added it's super ugly, but it still works. How many top words to display, and the user can basically say 0, 1, 2, 3, whatever. So that's how we get this number. It's from this window and from this input field. But the question is, how do we get our node IDs? And I think I get it because we worked so much. That was a very hard streaming session. Look at that. So again, what is that? This is let me show you. Do you see it? Yeah. All this method includes the code. Oh, this method includes the code that will be executed just once when the plugin opens. So what happens when the plugin, is opened? Basically, when you open Gephi, there is one big function which is called init components, and which, if you're curious about it, is where is it? It's somewhere close. It's here. NetBeans hides it from our view because it's something we are not supposed to touch. In this method that I can show you now, all this ugly code, it is generated by NetBeans. And where from? Basically, it's all the code that makes Gephi and Java create all this graphical user interface that we have designed. So basically, if I change the height of that, it behind the scenes is going to change the code in that. But I didn't do any code writing, right? So that's why I'm just hiding that, and it's hidden by default. And all this code is executed just because NetBeans calls that method when the plugin opens. And as you see, it's not a code I write myself. Then the plugin gets a name. There is a tooltip, this kind of optional thing. And then this is the code that I have written. I want the plugin to fetch the graph, which is currently opened in Gephi. And then finally, this is where I want it to go. Gephi has this very, not super famous feature that it has a visualization controller. I didn't know of it before 2 weeks ago. This thing provides a lot of methods for the developer of a plugin to do stuff with the visualization. What I want to do with this plugin is I want to retrieve the list of the nodes being currently selected, by the user with their mouse. So a very long paraphrase just to say that if I select that, I'm going to get a selection manager, which is a piece of code that will help me get the nodes being currently selected. And why am I saying all of that? Well, because I need this list of nodes being currently selected to extract the top terms from them. That's where we were. So pasting viz controller get instance get selection manager, and look at the method that it offers. Do you see it? Get selected nodes. just in one line of code, we have the list of the nodes that the user is being selecting at the moment. So I store this list of selecting nodes in a value, in a variable which is called selected nodes. So if I was fancy, and maybe I want to be fancy, let's try it. I could use a stream, which is, you know, a kind of, I mean, it's very famous in other programming languages, but it arrived in Java like just 5 years ago. Well, no, well, maybe more now. But anyway, it's kind of a, I'm not used to that. But I think there is, if I use a stream, I can do a one-liner to convert a list of nodes into a list of node IDs. So you take your list, you do stream, and then you do map, I think. And then you do, that's where I'm really bad, but I think it's node ID, but you know, I'm just, and then, yeah, it complains a lot here. Why is it complaining? Okay, it doesn't find the method called ID. Maybe it's get ID. How can I? I need to check what are the methods of a node in Gephi. So to get a node, I'm just gonna do, so it's not something I'm just writing that to get a node, right? So I'm not saying I'm gonna delete this line of code right after. It's just that I want to see a node. Okay, that's a node. So when I have a node, what are the methods? And I suppose it's get ID. Yeah, it's get ID. Okay, I can delete that. So I think that's what you do here. Yeah. And then collect to list maybe. Oh, if it's going to be a list of objects, but that's fine. Okay, so in one line, and I was just a bit lazy because actually with a loop I could have, you know, a for loop, I could have done it without scratching my head. But as you see, I turned a list of selected nodes into a list of selected node IDs. Why did I do that? Because this is what I need to feed to this method, a list of node IDs, not a list of nodes. And it complains because it expects a list of strings. How do you, can I add that into my one-liner? Maybe. I'm gonna need to search for that on the web. Java stream how to cast. Casting means changing the type of a variable. So let me show you that with you. Come on. So slow. No, that's not that's not the question I was after. So what I'm casting, cast object to string, okay. Maybe that's, yeah, I suppose that's this one. No. Object to string. Okay. Object to string, that's weird. I want to cast an object in a string. I'm not sure the toString method is what we would expect there. Bildung is like one of the famous websites for tutorials in Java, super useful. But I'm not sure this is conclusion now. Come on, casting in a stream, that's not super difficult, right? Maybe this one. Oula, ugly. Okay, I'm a bit bored here. Oh, I've seen something. Convert an object to another type using map. Yeah, I think that's exactly what I want to do. Seriously. Like, I can't load this website? Are you kidding me? Okay, so maybe I'm not to say convert cast, I'm gonna say convert object to string. Okay, that's exactly my equation. Converting from list of object to list of string using streams. That's what I want to do. Okay, well, that's object to string. Use a typed query string instead of a query, but that's in a... Okay. Okay, but it's object to string. It would seem to be... Oh, that's complicated. Let's try that anyway. ToString, the object to string thing. Oh, I'm really getting fancy, and that's really... We lose time here, but... Do you see what I'm doing? No, you don't. So I'm converting the object because node IDs are objects, not strings. So I'm converting them into string before they are turned into a list. And this way you should have a list of strings in the end, I hope. But I'm not sure the toString method turns an object into a string. I will see that. Anyway, once we have the selected node IDs, we can extract their top terms and the result is a string that we display on a label. What I'm going to show you now is, you know, I had a line of code that just said, take this text and show it in the label. The label is, let me show you where. The label is this big empty space where I'm just saying, remove hello, welcome to my plugin, and put instead the list of top words. well, yeah, it's really so simple. I'm not going to do anything fancy here. So how do I know the name of this label here? You have a panel at the bottom right where that gives you plenty of information on the element that you are currently selecting. So I have selected the label and I see their names here. It's placeholder for top terms. As you see, still my love for very long names, but at least I fully understand what it is. Placeholder for top terms. That's the name of this label. Placeholder for top terms. So here I can just do, and again, that's super slow, placeholder for top terms. That's the name of the label. And there's a method for it that says set text, I would expect, yes. And what text should I put in it? Well, the list of top terms we just extracted. So it makes for a very long line, but I fully understand what it does. Okay, so what have we accomplished so far? We have just made sure that at the initialization of the module, we have extracted a list of, we have extracted the top terms for all the graph. Then we have, so if there is no graph, I hope, because sometimes, you know, of course there is no graph. I hope there is a, I'm just checking inside the method for the tokenization of the city of, I hope it doesn't do anything stupid if the graph is empty, right? No, I think it's fine. Well, we'll see that at runtime. So, okay. Then it selects the list of nodes being currently selected. It extracts the top terms just for this list and it shows it on the screen. Fabulous, fabulous. And now what we should do is exactly the same. So again, we are just 18 minutes left, but with some luck, we are super close to doing it actually in the time we have. So let's look at that. We have, I'm not exactly sure. Let's see. Let me show you. You don't see it, that's here. We have this method, which is super empty, selection change listener. Not this method, this class. What did we do with it? We have added this listener, this class. Look at the top. So we have instantiated it, calling it test, but it's not a test anymore. It's not a drill. It's actually real for now. We have instantiated this class, and we have passed this listener, or we have added it to the selection manager. What does it mean? It means that each time the selection of the, by the user, each time the selection is going to change, this variable, which is a change listener, is going to get triggered. And how? Well, let's look at inside the thing. Look at that. Each time the selection has been will be changed, this thing will be triggered. And that's a result we got 2 weeks ago. And of course, for testing purposes, we were saying hello world. But what we want to happen actually is that we want that each time the selection changes, actually that happens. The thing that we coded when the run button is clicked, we want it to happen every time the node selection changes. So it's not finished, but I suppose I'm going to copy that and I'm going to paste it in the method of the change listener. Of course, it's going to complain because it's far from being straightforward like that. I keep the hello world, who knows? So I copy it, and of course it complains. Why? So first, the good news is that even if we are in this class, which is, standalone, it's just a very tiny stuff, we can retrieve the list of currently selected nodes because the visualization controller can be accessed from there. So that's super. And then it complains that it doesn't know what the top term extractor is. Well, it's okay, it's normal. It's because we have instantiated it, here, but we are not here anymore. So we should just instantiate it again. So I copy this line of code, I'm back to my change listener, and I'm pasting this line of code. So now it doesn't complain anymore that, this thing doesn't exist. Now it knows what it is because I just instantiated it the line before. And the very last thing it complains is this thing. It doesn't know what the label is. And I agree with you that, and this is where I'm going to do an ugly shortcut. In this case, what you're supposed to do is using it's not fancy, but like a professional way to update, from one method, how to update an element of the visualization. There is some complicated stuff to do. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to butcher it. So I'm going to go back to again, all this code is related to the window, to this window. What we want is that this thing is updated when the selection changes. But we can't, the name of this element, the name of this placeholder, how do we pass it to there? I'm going to make it a static variable, which, if you know Java and Swing, I should not be doing that, but I'm gonna do it nonetheless, because if I make this label static, it means that what does it mean exactly? I think that what it means, well, I don't know the formal definition for that. But basically, in practice, it means I will be able to access it from a different class. In practice, that's what matters to me. So how do I do that? This thing describes the properties of this label, this placeholder. And I think that if I go in code, I have this magic, very ugly hack where I say static. And I will not make it private either. I'm gonna make it public. Everything I should not be doing, but thanks to this thing, I can now do. So let me show you. I can just call this variable from another class by doing that. I'm just writing the name of the class where this variable is. I do, and then I call it from here. Well, it still complains, and why? Well, I think we should be good, right? It says it has private access, but I just removed private access. So maybe I did not. You see it here? It's public, it's not private. So I think it did not propagate yet. Let me check in the code. Is it private? Is it public? I think they are declared at the very bottom. Yeah, here. You see it's public. So so we should be fine. It's just it has not propagated. Hello, it's not private. So I'm gonna save the file. Maybe it's gonna trigger some. Yeah, as you see, it has removed that. So I can, and I'm sorry again, I'm gonna use the same ugly trick, because as you see, in order to select the top terms, I need to know how many top terms do we want. And this number, where does it come from? Well, it also comes from our visual thing. You know, this is where the number of top terms is being chosen by the user. So as a consequence, the variable holding this value is there. How do I access it from here? So I'm just using the same hack, which, so I'm so it's not this variable, it's one which is just where is it? Okay, so this variable is here. Oh, you don't say it, sorry. Up here. Well, I should no, I should make this variable the spinner number top terms. I'm gonna make it public and static. I hope you will forgive me. Hop. Let me show you. Public and static. This way, I can now access this variable from the class that I am working on, which is this one here. With the same way, you just write the name of the class where the variable is, you access it here, and then I need the number that the person has chosen, so get value. I cast it as an integer. I would really love that we would actually test it before we leave. We have to. number of top terms, and this is what we pass to here. And we should be fine. It complains, you don't see it, but here it complains that it's not public, but yes it is. So I'm just saving the file. I hope it refreshes. No, still. No, it says it has private access, but it definitely has not. Maybe that's this file I should save. Just hitting Control S for saving, and yes, it has realized that it has public access, so I can access this variable from this other class. As you see, the indentation is not proper. What I do I say that a couple of weeks ago, but in NetBeans, what the shortcut you use, sorry, I just have the Windows version, but on Windows you do Alt-Shift-F, and that seems ugly, but I do it without thinking. Alt-Shift-F, and as you see, the indentation is straightened. It does a lot of, well, it does everything that you need to format the code. Alt-Shift-F, F for formatting, I suppose. Well, I think we should try the code now. I'm a bit afraid that it's going to raise a null pointer exception if if this list of selected nodes is empty because no node is selected. Maybe it's not going to be empty. Maybe it's going to be, no, it's not going to be null. It's going to be empty. Okay, let's hope. Anyway, we are here to test, right? So now to deploy, and test the plugin, I never remember how to do that. So I just go back to the resources and let me show you so just check the comments, the chat. I'm gonna show you the link that I'm checking now with you. Because in this Google Doc, which is shared publicly, I've just written how to compile and launch the plugin. So from the plugin, you do clean and build. Okay, back to NetBeans. So from the plugin, you right-click on the name and you do clean and build. So it's going to take a couple of, a dozen seconds, I would expect. So what does it do? It packages the plugin with the latest modifications we have made. Okay, we should be done now. No, failure. Oh, yes, because, yes, I'm using, so it complains because I'm using in one part, in this one-liner, by the way, I should have been, where did I put this one-liner? I can't remember. I think it's, yeah, it's, yeah. So, let me show you here. I use a method which is called toList, and actually in the version of Java that Gephi is using, this thing did not exist yet. So you have to do exactly the same. I think it's collectors, right? Exactly the same, but in a more in a longer way. And again, why can I understand this bug so quickly and solve it so quickly is because 3 weeks ago or 6 weeks ago, we were right in the middle of these conflicts in Java version that, between the Java version I was using here and the one that Gephi was authorized to be using. Oops. And at the time I did the investigation and the solving, and today it's super simple to, at least I hope, to understand what's going on. So what I just did, I'm explaining that while it compiles, is that I removed a method that caused the error in the compilation. I removed it because it's a method that I can use, as you see in my IDE, in my development environment, because I use one of the latest versions of Java, as you would expect to work. But Gephi, for some technical reasons, is stuck to a version of Java which is a couple of years old. And at the time, like a couple of years ago, Java was, every year Java introduces better, functions and stuff. So you can use something in 2023 which was not present 4 years ago. In which case it complains. So you have to remove these advanced or newer methods and replace them with whatever was working 4 years ago. And I was lucky that it was just a simple replacement. So what this did work? Yeah, it worked great. So it was exactly just that. And then back to resources. So zooming in with you. Then build from the Gephi plugins parent project. Okay, super simple. So as you see, we were working here in the plugin, but the plugin depends on a parent project, which is complicated. But so I just do build there. And we wait. So that's fast. Reasonably fast given how slow the thing is with OBS. Okay, done in a second. Okay, done. And then we can run it. And I would suggest we run it with the debugger. Just to the debugger, so we started using it last week. It's super great. It's something that really allows you to execute the code line by line, which is, to me, it's magic. So as you see, I'm going to click on line 54, well, I just did. It means that when the plugin is going to launch, it's going to stop at this red line, and it's going to wait for me to tell it, move to the next line, move to the next line. And this way I can, it's going to crash, I suppose, but I know, at least I'm going to know where things, or until when things go well, and when do they go wrong. So, okay, let's go. To launch the plugin, I just right-click on the parent project. Let me just double-check here. Yeah. So right click and debug. You see it here? Yeah. And that should launch Gephi with the plugin inside, and it's going to stop when it hits this red line, hopefully. Well, I still... Oh, Gephi is finally opening. So you don't see it, but it's on my other window, and it's just the welcome screen. So I'm waiting for it to fully open. Oh, it opens on your thing, so that's great. So here things should stop. I would expect, because it's gonna hit the red line. Yes, no. Okay, the red line is not, you know, it should turn green when it hits. So I was surprised. I would have thought, okay, never mind. So what I see now is, you know, the classic stuff. So let's choose this one because it has a textual attribute. Weird. Why is it not hitting the red line? Ooh. Something wrong here. That's weird, right? What should I do? Go for it anyway? Okay, so that's Gephi being opened. Should I try? So if I click on run, it will execute everything from the run method, which is there, right? So it should. So I'm going to put a breakpoint there because it should hit this breakpoint. So, okay, let's click on run. Yeah, do you see it? It hits the breakpoint, so good. And so once you have hit the breakpoint, what you can do to, again, execute the code line by line is, so you have shortcut for that, F8 to go to the next line. So as you see, F8. Oh, I didn't select the column value, so of course it's null, so it's going to return. Okay, good. So I'm going to be back here. I'm going to make sure I select. Oh, it doesn't work. Why? Oh yeah. I didn't select the column of the node where you have some text. So actually it did something useful. It didn't crash. It just say it didn't do anything. So description, I want the 4 top terms, and I click on run. And again, very happy with that. It stops there. So F8. The selected column ID is description this time. You see it. Great. How many terms should it display? It's 4. You see the value in the tooltip. Then it tokenizes everything So it should take a while, because when you are in debugging mode, things are much slower than they would be in a normal run. Come on, please. It's so slow. Come on, don't kill me. Oh, so that's awful. Basically, what I know is going to be finished when it's going to move to the next line in green. But as you see, so that will happen in 1/10 of a second in real. Okay, good. Okay, so I'm interested in this line. I'm curious because I didn't touch the network, right? I'm just like, my mouse is not over it. So what I would expect it to return an empty list because I have no selected nodes. So I'm going to do F8. Sorry, I have to. And checking on it. Size 0, yes. So with an empty list of selected nodes, we have a list which is non-null, it's just empty, fabulous. And then it's going to extract the top terms from these nodes. It should not break, it should give us an empty string, I hope. Yeah, not an empty string, but as I hope you see from the tooltip, HTML, body, end of HTML, but inside you have nothing. And it should put it in the placeholder, so we should have nothing left. And indeed, this thing is empty. Now we're gonna, I'm gonna select some nodes, but before that, I want to put a breakpoint in the selection, in the selection change listener. I want to introduce a breakpoint to see what happens there. So let's do that. Now I can go to Gephi and so do a selection. So a selection I can't really remember, but I suppose it's, I never know. I've selected and bim. It has triggered the change. Okay, why not? So let's see how many selected nodes. F8, 0. Yeah. I suppose if selected nodes equals 0, maybe it could just return the thing. Yeah, so that's something I will add later. If selected nodes here is equal to 0, right, it should not execute the rest. It should just return, which means interrupt. But we are not there at the moment. So back to Gephi. I'm going to choose a big diameter for the selection. Oh, it's going to be a very nice experiment. I'm happy because that's really the plugin coming to life. So I see you are 3 viewers, and the 3 of you, I don't know if you are doing something else, but at this point you should really look, because you see my selection. I hope that when I'm going to move and go over the network, some nodes will be selected and it's going to trigger the method for the top words. If so, it's not finished, but it's really close to the finishing line. Attention. Oh, come on. Something should happen here. Nothing happens. What I expected is that since I'm selecting nodes here, right? I'm changing the selection of nodes, right? Then this method should have been triggered. And that's not the case. So I suppose there is a difference between, and I think it's something that I did not And I'm really surprised. I'm not sad because it means there is something escaping me, and hopefully it's an easy fix. But as you see, it does not react to the change of selection. At the moment, I have 0 nodes being selected. At this point, I have 1 node, one node in my region. And there I have like plenty of nodes being selected. Maybe it's not because maybe I didn't click with the mouse. Let me click. No, just clicked, doesn't change. No, clicking does not activate the selection. What triggers a selection? Oops. Clicking on a node directly doesn't. So trying to think hard, why is the selection not? I have registered the listener, and the proof is that. Okay, so each time I leave the method gets triggered. As you see, I just clicked on another icon and piff, the debugger stopped because this method was called. What is the number of selected nodes, by the way? 0. I just deselected. Okay, I just clicked on rectangle selection. Maybe if I do a rectangle selection, it's gonna trigger. It does not. So I think that, and we're going to stop there, I think there is something fundamental and important that I don't understand about what it means for a node to be selected. Right? But that's something to be investigated next week. I'm so curious. I suppose I'm going to stop the stream and right away go to the documentation. I mean, there is no documentation on that, but right to the code of the code base of Gephi and see if I can find any clue, because that's super intriguing. We are at that close from having something that works. Okay, I'm going to do some offline. I'm going to do some investigations, and hopefully next week we are really in a sweet spot where all the code has been written. There's just this fix to be added, and just to repeat on what is the, what I what I expect to happen next week is that whenever I do that, simultaneously you have the list of the top words from the nodes in the cycle, that keep refreshing because I move the cycle. So, these are the top words describing the nodes there. Oh, and there, these are the top words that describe the nodes in these regions. And in the center, we have those ones. Oh, and by the way, what is this community? Oh, I can see it because, the top words are just refreshed and displayed there. And I think we are super close to having that. Then we could add fancy stuff like colors or size of the term depending on their frequency, but that's for refinements. Hopefully we have the basics working next week, but so intriguing. Okay, I leave you on that. Thanks a lot, Veronica, for being there. And thanks to all of you. And fingers crossed for next week. Have a good time. Have a good week. Yeah, that's going to be great, hopefully. Especially for big networks that that you are not familiar with, the ones that you are really exploring for real. That should be some tremendous help. Salut Mathieu. Thanks again for being here.